Hi guys, and the biggest video on my YouTube channel is one that I did about a year ago. It was 17 classic cars to buy in 2021 and why they're a better investment than property. That video is now closing in on 100,000 views. You absolutely must go and watch it. The link is above here, and also I'll put it in the description below. Now in that video I discussed in detail all the pros and the cons of buying classic cars, especially for investment, and how to actually make money on them as well as to enjoy them. So here we are now at the beginning of 2022. So I reckon it's time to update the list for this year, for 2022, with the best classics to buy in the next 12 months. I'll list 22 of them. Again, the focus is on keeping your pounds safe and your dollars safe, but also on fun. So let's get straight down to my list of 22 brilliant buys right after this. So for this list, I've drawn on 4 excellent and incredible resources: Hagerty and Go Classics, plus I've thrown in a selection of my own choice. Now Hagerty is renowned as an international specialist in insuring and valuing classic cars. Now every year they release 2 lists. It's what they call the bull market list. They do one for the UK and they do another one for America, and in each of those they highlight their top 10 best buys. Now what I've done is I've selected 5 from each of those that I think really are top tips. So first, let's start with the stateside lineup. These are humongous and now highly desirable. Fins are fantastic, but these elegant machines are more modern and still very Hollywood. Plus they are affordable, relatively speaking. You can pick up a great example for around £30,000. So get a 60s and 70s Caddy now for reasonable money while you still can. Just make sure you've got a big, and I mean massive, place to park it in. Is it a little surprising to see this on the list? Surely this is a guaranteed winner and already a high value investment ticket. This is Ferrari's first mid-engine car, and with 6 cylinders, it was unusual for the supercar and race car maker at the time. Plus it's beautiful, adorable even. Prices have held steady on these for a while, but Hagerty reckons they're back on the rise. Now the original Mazda RX-7, a rotary Wankel engine sports car, gotta be careful how you say that, is something of a legend. It made Japanese sports cars cool around the world, and especially in the States. A bit of a contemporary to the Datsun 240Z and 280Z, and now it's rightfully getting the same level of interest and attention as those Z cars. It still looks slick and desirable. Prices were low, but they're rising fast. The Pontiac GTO, often referred to as the GOAT, or the greatest of all time, is an American icon and the brainchild of a certain John DeLorean, potentially the original muscle car. This was a big luxury thing with a meaty performance engine and a name that was nicked from Ferrari. Yep, that's where they got the GTO. As cool as they come, these are epic cars and prices are expected to rise. Look at well over £50,000 already for good ones. Suzuki's Mini Off-Roader was a dragon slayer, a sort of David in the David and Goliath fable. It's not just lovable to look at, but it's highly effective, sort of like Yoda. Don't go by his size, the force is mighty within him. That's the Suzuki Samurai. It crawls around everywhere like a mountain goat, but it's also solid and dependable. Most importantly, these are just brilliant fun. Now usually they're dirt cheap, but prices are on a steep rise right now. Moving on to the UK edition of Hagerty's bull market list. Again, here's the ones that I picked out from the lineup. The Ferrari 458 Italia seems a bit new to be on this list, though it has been around for over a decade now, and is significant for being the last naturally aspirated V8 Ferrari in the lineage. It was not only so much better than the F430, but it was so much prettier. In fact, I still think it's the best looking of the modern era of Ferraris. And Hagerty reckons it's already becoming collectible, with values rising by nearly 4% in 2021. That the original Mini is a classic and a definite investment is without dispute. But the rebooted 2001 BMW produced version? Oh yeah, it was bigger and more modern, but it was also more spacious, far better built, and most importantly of all, still laugh out loud fun to drive. Today the R50 Gen, as these are known, are being bought by youngsters and people of, well, my generation. We remember the original, but want something more up to date. And apparently buyers like us are driving prices and interest up. They're still affordable, but hurry if you want one. People regarded the original Boxster as a poor man or poor girl's Porsche 911. I always thought that was a bit unfair for the simple reason that being a mid-engine rather than a rear-engine car, the Boxster was beautifully balanced with superb handling and was simply better, if not as eventful to drive as a 911. The early cars are cheap now and being snapped up. You can still get good ones for around £5,000, but prices have risen 5.3% since 2019. An early 90s masterpiece, this homologation special was a race-spec hot hatch that was convinced it was a rally car but took the name of the F1 team that Renault was associated with at the time. That's when Prost and Mansell were winning F1 championships. There were a fair few changes, including a widened footprint and of course those signature Speedline gold alloy wheels. These are rare, and even high mileage cars are commanding top money already, so better get in there quick. Now this is a weird one. At some points, it was probably the least loved of all Rolls-Royce motor cars, simply because of its odd sharp edge styling and boxy design, which made it look like it should be in a Jerry Anderson Super Mario Nation series. But it's one of those cars that is aging well. Maybe it was ahead of its time, or maybe we're just looking at it again with fresh eyes, but there's definitely something there. And Hagerty, their price guide is now suggesting that values are up by 20% on this thing. This was once the world's most expensive car, so you know what? It's definitely worth another look. The next half a dozen or so car choices are taken from issue 5 of Go Classics magazine, which listed their own 22 cars to buy in 2022. They are all great choices, just as you'd expect from a magazine that I also contribute to, but I've selected these as the ones that really caught my eye. The Audi TT has been around since 1998, and it was that first model designed with the use of a protractor and a compass, utilizing bits of a Mark IV Golf with a VR6 engine that has now become something of an icon. There's no question this is a future classic. Quattro Sports are already commanding over £10,000. I remember reviewing the original Ford Puma, and unlike the modern version, which is a family crossover, though quite a likeable one I have to admit, the 1997 car was kind of like Ford's answer to the Honda CRX, another car I love. A fun little sports coupe that majored on engaging handling rather than outright performance, until the Puma Racing Edition came along, that is. It's even reasonably practical. There's still a few of these about for little money, but that will change. Snap up good ones now. The Jaguar XJR is a proper gangster saloon, and the 1994 car brought back the hooded classic round headlights, retaining that sleek elongated fuselage-like body. I genuinely love these, and you can't argue with a 4-litre V8 and 326 brake horsepower. Plus, you could even get them with a 5-speed manual gearbox. It's rare though, find one that's been looked after. Now these used to be bargains, but not anymore. Prices are already between £5,000 and £12,000. I drove a Jensen Interceptor a few years ago and then again in 2021. And each time I do, I can't help wondering why these didn't become the UK's Ford Mustang. I mean, in the sense that the car is so cool, charismatic, muscular, and has just about the most action hero name in the car industry, the Jensen Interceptor. These are big, solid, fast-moving tanks that are surprisingly tame to check around. But I'm not the only one with renewed interest in these cars, so values are on the up. If Go Classics hadn't included this car, I would have. The Lotus Esprit is my all-time favorite car. I've driven them, but I've never owned one, and that remains my long-time dream, which is probably why I should not be including it here as a suggested supercar to invest in. This British icon captured the public's imagination as the Bond car that turned into a submarine in The Spy Who Loved Me, and then got teenage boys in the 80s rather excited as both Julie Roberts in Pretty Woman and Sharon Stone in Basic Instinct both pedalled Esprits hard. Nothing short of a Lamborghini Countach has come close to matching the car's sensational wedge-shaped profile, and they handle like heaven. In 2021, several examples changed hands for more money than Esprit market has ever seen, and I reckon that we will see values easily surpass £100,000 this year. Now, where'd I put that lottery ticket? Another British sports car icon that instantly puts hairs on your chest and a cravat around your neck. This Roadster must never have the roof up so that you can better hear that V8 burble. It was meant to rival the Mercedes SL at the time, and today makes a viable alternative to its contemporary. Values are solid, but could be set to rise. Another modern classic, I remember driving the 2003 Volkswagen Golf R32 and thinking it was like a pigeon among the cats being the Subaru Impreza WRX and the Mitsubishi Evo in their heyday. It was just as fast and grippy with the same uncanny poise and precision, but shorter and solider, if that's a word. While everyone kept going on about the GTI, I was like, no, the R32 is the Golf to get. But you'd better not hang about. You'll need 10,000 plus to have one of these in your drive now. Finally, I couldn't resist adding a few choices of my own. Cars that I have a gut feeling about more than anything else. So here are my own 5 motors on the move. I do love wedge-shaped cars, as I've mentioned. The profile lends itself perfectly to a supercar, but if you ever wondered, how would it work if applied to a large luxury family car and even an estate car? Well, Citroën answered that question in 1989 with the extraordinary XM. Freshly arrived from the planet Andromeda, this was from an era back when Citroën was still nuts, breaking all the rules and innovating for the sake of being different. The company's mantra seemed to be, make all the things quirky and never conform. Now next year, the XM name will return on a big blunt hybrid BMW SUV M car. However, I think it's time to recall the original and to elevate the Citroën XM to its rightful status as a latter-day successor to the epochal Citroën DS. There are few, if any, brand new cars more evocative and old school than a Dodge Challenger. I adore them. But as handsome as that beast is, look back at its original progenitor from 1970 and you'll see where those gorgeous lines hail from. While the 68 Charger is just gargantuan and imposing, by comparison the Challenger is enticing and sexy. I've been in love with it since the original Vanishing Point movie. The car in that was white, but have you, for example, ever seen a convertible version in plum crazy purple? Oh, wowzers, it's so sweet. For muscle car fans who may be bored with Mustangs, Camaros, and yes, even Chargers, it's time to look at a classic Challenger and become that lone driver, the last American hero, the electric centaur, the demigod, the super driver of the Golden West. What am I on? Not uppers like Kowalski was, that's for sure, maybe just coffee. Anyway, whether you get a Challenger or not, I highly recommend you go and watch that original Vanishing Point movie. There's a new Bronco in town and Ford has once again done a Mustang with it. On point, retro-inspired design that instantly wins the hearts of young and old, both those who remember the original car and those who just think that the new one is dope. But as always, that does mean renewed interest in the icon that inspired it, the 1966 Ford Bronco. Now these are already desirable and collectible, but now values will rocket. You might already be too late to get a good one, but find one that needs fixing up. It'll be worth the time, effort and money in the long run, I reckon. After a 25-year run, the LOTUSELISE, essentially a modern-day Caterham if you think about it, has just ended its production run. So have the Exige and the Evora, in fact, as right now, the only cars you can get from Lotus are the new Emira and the Evija hypercar. The Emira will be the last Lotus to feature an internal combustion engine, so it's already a bona fide future classic before even a single customer's got their car. But the Elise, though, that was rather special and remains one of the true driving greats when it comes to sports cars. Few machines can connect with you so wholly and engagingly than an Elise. These are not unreasonable money now, but they have earned icon status. So invest in them now, but don't forget to drive the wheels off them too, because otherwise you're simply missing out and missing the point. The Toyota Celica falls last on my list of 22 simply because I put each segment into alphabetical order. But it's no afterthought. I believe that as the classic status of the Datsun Z cars is assured, and as Hagerty confers similar honors on the Mazda RX-7, and as Supras have already surged in demand and pricing, it's only logical that clean Celicas, whether the original cars that were really meant to be Japan's answer to the Mustang, to the later models that took WRC titles, these are going to rise in price. Desirable special editions are already high value, but solid and unmolested examples across the range in years should start to see their values steadily ascend. Definitely one to put on the list. So there you go. That's my 22 great classic and modern classic cars to consider getting in 2022, both for investment and for fun. Let me know what you thought of these. Am I right? Am I nuts? And also, most importantly of all, let me know your top tips for investment and put them in the comments below. See you in the next video. A big shout out and thanks to Jay Williams over at AirTechnik, who are my top tier sponsors. Check them out for exhaust, brakes, suspension and even body kits. Also much appreciation to my tier 4 sponsors Mohamed Ali Humaid and Tom Conway-Gordon, and of course all of these other guys who have joined me on Patreon. Without their support I can't be creating the content that I am doing. Perhaps you can join them. Head over to patreon.com/browncarguy. Even if you can't do that, make sure you're subscribing and sharing this channel, which of course is youtube.com/browncarguy. Also subscribe to browncarguy.com and follow me on all the socials. Just search for my hashtag, which of course is #browncarguy.